The snow is snowing.
They don't call it the bleak midwinter for nothing. As the nights close in and the weather turns, home can seem a long way away. But what saves me from a terminal decline is the knowledge that just around the corner is the irrepressible sparkle of Christmas. Cynics may carp, but I wallow in it all. And the minute the city begins to transform itself with the festive sparkle, so does my Christmas kitchen. Cloves, cinnamon, and of course cranberries add a spicy depth to my star-topped mince pies. I need the velvety warmth of my roast squash and Stilton soup. And my star from the east, a gloriously spicy lamb tagine with dates, with its red onion, coriander and pomegranate relish.
How much it may storm. Yes, see, I've got my love to keep me warm.
Here's my moment when at last I've got the time to enjoy being in the kitchen, cooking and sharing my table with friends. But the all-important thing is to hold on to all of that and not get overwhelmed by the burdens of feeding everyone. I know it's difficult. You have an ally, and your best friend at this time of year is the freezer. Time for a little drink, I think. The drink I need is my Lychee. What it is, really, just a martini, but infused with the fragrance of lychee, which I think are very Christmassy. Right, get everything I need. Very simple. I do it by ratios, which means you can do either a glass or a pitcher. So 1 part chilled vodka, 1 part white rum, and 2 parts creme de lychee. I mean, I know it's a fancy ingredient, but this time of year demands a little bit of excess. And I'm going to do what every barman would hate, and that's add some ice. And now my final touch, a little garnish of lychee. I'm using canned, I'm afraid, simply because when I peel a fresh lychee, I just massacre it, and I've got nothing to look pretty in the drink. It's so hard to describe the taste of a lychee. In fact, I don't think it's got a taste so much as a scent. It's like spring blossom at Christmas. Chin chin.
What do I care? How much it may storm. 'Cause I've got my love to keep me warm.
A bit of novelty is all well and good at this time of year, but Christmas is really about tradition, and this is where mince pies, my little star-top mince pies, come in. I used to think that, really it wasn't worth your effort making your own mince pies, and it wasn't so long ago I thought that. And it's true, you can buy perfectly decent mince pies at the shops. But I feel so safe and secure knowing that at Christmas I've got just a load of these stashed in my deep freeze. The thing is, not only are mince pies very easy to make, but it's just so gratifying. And this gorgeous feeling is all too easy to achieve. First, you've got to make your pastry. I make a very straightforward, plain pastry. I don't think mince pies need any sweet dough at all, nothing rich. Measure out 240 grams of plain flour into a dish, and into that flour, just cut up about 60 grams of chilled butter and little teaspoons of the same weight of vegetable fat, and sit that in the deep freeze for about 20 minutes. And it's that brief immersion in the deep freeze that makes the pastry so pliable and relaxingly easy to roll out, and later so tender and flaky to eat. And while the flour, butter and vegetable shortening are in the deep freeze, squeeze an orange into a little jug, add a pinch of salt and put that into the fridge. So after these 20 minutes, put the flour with the frozen fats into a freestanding mixer, and then start mixing until you've got what looks like a pale pile of rather porridge-like crumbs. And then once that happens, you start pouring in the salted, chilled orange juice. I use the juice of an orange rather than just water for two reasons. One, because the scent of orange is just so Christmassy. Also, it's the acid in the orange that helps the pastry stay so tender. So when the dough's at this point of just looking like it's about to cohere into one whole, squidge it together and then form it into 3 fat little patties. Just wrap these in cling and put them in the fridge. If the pastry was simple enough, the mincemeat, real homemade mincemeat, is child's play. I mean, it's the work of moments. I mean, that's if you called us tipping things into a pan and letting them simmer work. We start off positively with some ruby port. Look at that. Then some dark brown sugar, so treacly smelling. In the minute you put the heat on, you can smell that waft of mulled wine, which is essentially what's going on here. Now, my mincemeat is a slightly sort of modernised, lighter version even, which is surprising, I know. So instead of some grated cooking apple, I'm adding some fresh cranberries. I mean, you can use frozen, don't bother to thaw them. Ah, look at those plumptious beauties. Right, spice. You need spice. Gotta have spice in mincemeat. Some ground ginger, a spoon, same of cinnamon, and half of ground cloves. And smelling this, you really sense the medieval origins of mincemeat. Just give a stir so that all their gleaming redness is slicked in dark spiced syrup. I like it when it starts bubbling. Right, some dried fruit. You have to have dried fruit. That is essentially what mincemeat is. Some raisins, sultanas. I never use mixed peel because I don't like it. And strangely, I'm not using suet here, so for once, I'm keeping company with a healthy living brigade. Very disconcerting. But this is actually, quite light. But what's so fantastic about it is that it's rich and boozy, but fresh and fruity at the same time. Some dried cranberries. These will glisten like garnets later. And finally, the zest and juice of a clementine or satsuma, whatever you've got. That orange snow and all the gleaming, gorgeous redness. I want the juice, but I can't be bothered to get a proper squeezer. Just do it by hand. Get some pulp out this way too, which is good. So this needs to simmer for 20 minutes. And while that is happening, I can get on with rolling out my pastry. Right, so this has cooled a little. So the pièce de résistance, some brandy, droplet of almond extract, slightly more generous splosh of vanilla, and a squirt of honey. Now I like to beat this quite a bit with my wooden spoon. Not that I want mush, but more just to encourage it to turn into very beaded paste. Well, this beautiful cranberry-studded mincemeat is cool, and so I can fill these teeny little pastry cases. If I could sing, I would be bursting into a carol now, but I really can't, so it's just going on inside my head.
Sleigh bells ring, are you listening? In the lane, snow is glistening.
And what I find makes my life easier, which is important at all times, but never more so than at Christmas, is that I can cook all of these in one go, just in a hot oven for about 15 minutes. And then the ones that I want later, I will pop cooled in the deep freeze, ready to be reheated at a later date. And the thing is that frozen, thawed, reheated, they are still perfect. Crisp pastry, gorgeous, spicy, gooey interior.
And we'll pretend that he is Parson Brown. He'll say, are you married? We'll say, no, man. But you can do the job when you're in town. Later on, we'll conspire as we cruise by the fire to face unafraid the plans that we've made. Walking in a way wonderland. Oh, dee-da-dee-da, da-dee-da. Walking in a way wonderland.
I've come down into the icy depths to stash away my mince pies in the freezer. Not that they'll last very long there, I have to say, unlike a lot of the stuff I keep frozen. For example, I've got some chicken necks and feet bought in the hope that I would make some fantastic soup. They're known in the trade as walkie-talkies. And that is some ostrich, a hangover from my rare meats phase. Short-lived, I have to say. But the thing about the deep freeze at this time of year is it's really a kind of seasonal store cupboard for instant meals. A case in point is my sweet potato and butternut soup. I have to have a regular supply of this at this time of year because it really is one of my firm freezer favourites.
Merry Christmas, baby.
Peel and chop an onion, and then chop and de-seed a butternut squash. Don't bother to peel it. Then don't bother to peel either a sweet potato, but slice it and put all three on a baking tray.
Merry Christmas, baby.
Sprinkle with some cinnamon and nutmeg, and drizzle over with some olive oil, regular stuff. Then put in a hot oven for about an hour.
Gave me a diamond ring for Christmas. Now I'm living in paradise.
Perfect. I mean, this would be a fantastic no-fuss vegetable dish, just as it is. But for now, I'm after soup, so I'm going to blend it. The unpeeled sweet potato and butternut, and the bits of almost charred but certainly softened onion go into the blender. It's better to do it in 2 or 3 batches, really. And now into the blender, about 500 mils of vegetable stock. And when I say stock, it's just hot water and vegetable bouillon granules. A teeny bit more. Right. It's quite helpful if you've got a blender with one of these sort of steam outlets at the top. Otherwise, wait till the soup is a bit cooler when you blend. The moment of truth. There. I mean, it could hardly be simpler. I do like a little flourish at the end, though, so against the sweet graininess of the soup, I'm going to add a drizzle of buttermilk, although you could use natural yogurt, and blue cheese, salt and sour, against this honeyed richness. I know it looks a bit too thick right now, but I've got some more broth which I can use to thin it down and get it to just the right consistency. Thick and velvety, but not gloopy. If you're having this to help you after a Christmas party hangover, I suggest a few drops of really devilishly hot chili oil. But for now, I'm content to make my blue cheese drizzle. Now, an advanced taste of the Christmas Stilton. Let's crumble it in. And although I like buttermilk, it can be hard to get, so any runny plain yogurt is fine. So the salt here of the cheese and the sour tang of the buttermilk combine absolutely brilliantly. That's it. And we blitz again. Right, ready to pour. A perfect counterpoint to this in colour as well as taste. Now, if you're making the soup in advance, you may find you want to add some liquid as you reheat. But for now, it's perfect, and I think I can afford a ladle or two. And yes, I know my blue cheese swirl is a bit 80s. But you know,